When I first met Kody, it was this weird culture shock to me that nobody knocked. You just walked into houses. And I think over the year that we were there, I just sort of adopted it because it's really easy.
Kind of asked everybody to do was like do an announcement knock because I get completely startled.
Mary, I felt like you had to knock. My kids always felt like there were just so many rules at Mary's house. I don't know. If I felt like walking around in the nude, I want to know that somebody's there, so maybe I shouldn't do that.
Does Mary regret picking the wrong team? Well, it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback. Had Mary sided with Janelle and Christine, maybe she'd be in the mix with them and their kids more. Instead, she's left out of events, clueless about family gatherings, and on the outside looking in. But of course, she's explained it away like a pro. Oh, we weren't close before, so why would that change now? Classic Mary. So does she want to be part of the OG crew, or does she just not care? Well, it's clear the cracks in those relationships go way back. We're talking pre-show issues here. Everyone was just kids back then, making mistakes left and right. And then Christine and Janelle spent years popping out kids while Mary struggled with infertility. Talk about a recipe for tension. Mary's a bit controlling when it comes to her personal space, which, surprise, surprise, doesn't exactly blend well in a crowded house like theirs. The Lehigh house was always a pressure cooker, and I don't think Mary was ever going to get a warm welcome in the Janelle-Christine camp. Honestly, I wonder if she clung to controlling what she could because, after all, making babies was way out of her hands. She's made an effort to keep relationships with the kids who actually want to see her, like Logan and Hunter, for years now. So did she pick the wrong team? Maybe, but I doubt she sees it that way. Mary, Janelle, and Christine had bad blood for years before Robyn even entered the picture. And honestly, it wasn't just about personalities. Kody and polygamy did their part in making sure the wives were constantly pitted against each other. Those bridges were burned long before Robyn showed up. Janelle and Christine had their shared experiences with kids and Flagstaff. Mary, she was already deep into the empty nest phase. But I think Mary summed it up best in the latest episode. She doesn't want to be on anyone's team. She just wants to be Mary. And honestly, that's probably the healthiest mindset in the whole group. She knows there's too much history and hurt to ever be more than civil with Christine and Janelle, but at least she's wishing them well. If only Kody and Robyn could learn to be so gracious. We've got so much to dive into today. So let's not waste any time. Let's jump straight into it. Hey everyone, what's up? It's Elena here, and welcome back to my channel reality Nexus X. Robyn's first red flag. Watching Robyn's children during season 1 was like watching a live demonstration of the chaos she would later bring to the family. Seriously, take a look at how they acted in her home, especially on the wedding day. If you compare that to the OG 13 kids, it's like night and day. Even the youngest ones in the original crew are relatively calm and well-mannered, which just highlights how out of sync Robyn's kids were. You can tell from the start that chaos is in her DNA, and she doesn't seem equipped to handle it. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having fewer siblings. We get it. Growing up with 12 siblings means you're going to navigate the world differently than someone with only 2. Not trying to insult anyone's family dynamics here, I promise. But still, it's hard not to notice the difference. Robyn needed a nanny for her few, while Christine was juggling the whole OG 13 on her own like a pro. Fast forward to now, and look at how A and B turned out, completely unable to function in the real world. I'm a parent too, so I'm not here to judge anyone's parenting choices. But let's be real, Robyn seems to breed chaos, and somehow, she can't deal with it. The pattern's all there. She instigates all the moves, messes with everyone's routines, and rips the family apart, only to sit there and struggle to cope with the aftermath. It's almost like she's the source of the storm and the one caught in it at the same time. It's also pretty weird to see Robyn take shots at both her own kids and the Brown kids right off the bat. On one hand, she talks about how her kids were raised more tenderly than the rough and tumble Brown kids. On the other hand, she's mocking Brianna for being too tender and crying for no reason, especially when she messed up the family photo shoot. I mean, what's the deal here? And don't even get me started on that trip to the park with DAB. Robyn looked beyond frustrated, like there was no pretending that she was just having a tough moment. Sure, dealing with kids is hard, and no one wants a camera in their face while they're stressed. But honestly, the vibe was off. It wasn't just frustration on top of a foundation of love and patience. It was pure irritation. Maybe it was just me, but that's the gut feeling I had watching it. So, did all of this chaos start because of Wyn Brown? I'm rewatching the show, and I just hit that episode where the family goes to Wyoming after Wyn and Curtis pass away. It got me thinking about Kody's family, and well, let's just say, the more I dug into this, the more I started questioning my life choices. Here's the thing, Kody himself admits, at some point in the last few seasons, I don't even remember when, because honestly, who keeps track of this mess, that he has some serious daddy issues. Like really serious. He even tells the story of wanting a varsity jacket for Christmas, but getting work clothes for the ranch instead, which, I mean, that's a level of dad. Do you even like me? That I can't ignore. But I didn't realize just how much his dad's emotional neglect played into his decision to dive headfirst into polygamy. Apparently, his parents switched to polygamy while Kody was off on a mission trip, and Curtis, the brother who wasn't so keen on this whole idea, wasn't thrilled about it. So he stopped being the golden child. Enter Kody, who saw an opportunity to win Wyn's affection, and boom. Kody gets involved with Meri, who, let's be honest, was used as a pawn because she was close to Wyn's best friend. Hello, strategy. But here's the kicker. This plan didn't exactly pan out like Kody hoped. His dad felt he was failing at managing multiple wives, which is why, fun fact, he didn't show up to Kody and Christine's wedding. So much for all that approval Kody was chasing, right? And then there's that moment Kody talks about Janelle's mom, how she had a really tough time with Wyn's death. And Kody casually drops this line about how finding your soulmate later in life makes you feel like no time is ever enough. And sure enough, that's clearly him projecting his own feelings for Robyn. His transformation after his dad and brother passed is understandable, but do we think it also played a role in him pulling away from the other wives over the years? Now that he's not desperately seeking Wyn's approval, he doesn't have to pretend to be the perfect polygamist anymore. I know I'm rambling here, sorry, and I feel like I'm missing a ton of pieces. But the whole thing about Kody's dad sending him a box of overalls instead of the varsity jacket? Straight up cruel. It's like Wyn actively hated his son. But let's be real, Wyn is a huge part of why this entire mess unfolded. And the fact that polygamy is an inherently flawed and controlling system doesn't help either, especially when you're dealing with the AUB, which is pretty much a white supremacist polygamist cult. The effect it has on people raised in it? Yeah, it's not just a minor detail. At the end of the day, Kody is an adult, and while I feel sympathy for the broken little kid who craved his dad's approval, he's also responsible for the damage he's done as an adult. That's something we can't ignore. Now Janelle, she gets the side-eye from me. Of all the Browns, I trust her the least. Like, why would you want to be that side piece so badly that you join a cult? There are plenty of other guys out there, right? You really had to jump into polygamy just to make it work with your married ex-brother-in-law? Seriously, what happened in Janelle's early life that made this a reasonable choice? I get why Kody joins the cult, sure. I get why Robyn, Meri, and Christine were raised in it too. But Janelle? She's the one that doesn't make sense. Her mom fell for it, though, so now I'm even more curious about Janelle's backstory. If you had to be a sister wife to one of the OG3, who's it gonna be? And just to clarify, you don't have to marry Kody, but you do have to pick one of his original wives. Who's your pick? I'd go with Janelle. She's the most grounded and reasonable of the bunch. But honestly, Robyn's sounding pretty good. I wouldn't have to deal with Kody at all since he'd be glued to her side. She'd be stuck with him, and I'd be living my best life somewhere else. I'm probably the odd one out, but I'd pick Meri. Janelle's too passive-aggressive for me. I can't deal with the side-eyeing and the talking behind my back. Christine? She was way too perfect, and honestly, a little too happy for my taste. Like a constant I'm the favorite vibe. But Meri, we'd actually get stuff done. She's got a circle of friends that seem pretty chill, so I could totally vibe with her people. Honestly, I think I'd pick Meri too. I wouldn't pick Janelle because, let's face it, she's got that whole "I'll talk about you to Kody and try to control things behind your back" vibe. And if I needed something she didn't agree with financially, she'd veto it, no questions asked. I'm not a big spender, but I also don't need someone judging me for things they think I don't need. Christine? Nah, not for me. She'd want all the attention, would demand to be the favorite, and we'd all have to hear about it. No thanks. And Robyn? Well, obvious reasons. Meri's the one I'd pick, but only if I don't have to live in the same house as her. I do think she'd be fair about the whole housing and finances situation. Everyone would have equal access, no weird power plays. And if something happened to Kody, she'd probably be fair with the estate too. Plus, we know she's willing to contribute to the family account. That's a win. I think Meri's a solid choice. I'm a procrastinator, and I need someone who can kick me into gear. Meri's that person. Plus, I like Meri. You always know where you stand with her. If you piss her off, she's not gonna hide behind your back or talk about you. She'll tell you straight up. Honestly, that's what I respect. It's better to get everything out in the open, clear the air, and move on. No drama, just honesty. So, on the latest episode of Note to Self 444, they mentioned Robyn's dad. Apparently, Cory grew up knowing Robyn's family. They didn't dive into the details of how he died, though, because, it was tragic. But seriously, does anyone actually know what happened? Sorry for the morbid curiosity, but I was kind of thinking it was cancer or a heart attack, the usual suspects. Anyway, word on the street is that it was suicide. The guy was 80 after all, so maybe he had some terminal illness and decided to call it quits before things got any worse. Who really knows? His son, Paul Jr., who he had with Alice, also took his life in 2017. Then there was Robyn's dad in 2022, and if that wasn't enough, her stepson followed suit in 2024. So yeah, she's had more than her fair share of loss. Maybe all that grief is taking a toll on her. I mean, she looks miserable and cries constantly. Or maybe there's something else going on upstairs. Could be mental illness, who knows? Janelle had the kind of foresight most people wish they had, but don't always trust. Watching Season 8, Episode 7, which I'm almost done rewatching, I couldn't help but feel for her. She kept voicing her unrealistic fears about Kody marrying Robyn and them living out their happily ever after, and let me tell you, those fears, not so unrealistic after all. She downplayed them, called them silly, and doubted her gut every step of the way. And now, looking back with the gift of hindsight, my heart breaks for her. She saw it coming. She saw all of it. And there was Kody, not even trying to hide it, finishing that riding off into the sunset line like it was the grand finale of a rom-com. He knew exactly what he was doing. Meanwhile, Janelle's gut was screaming at her, but she kept second-guessing herself. Lesson learned. Listen to your instincts. They're usually right. And it wasn't just about the marriage. Janelle had a bad feeling about how Robyn's legal wife status would mess with the family finances. Even though she and Meri never had the closest relationship, Janelle trusted that if something ever happened to Kody, Meri would step up and do right by the whole family. Robyn, though, not so much. Janelle didn't extend that same trust, and for good reason. You could already see Janelle's mind ticking. She could practically picture Kody and Robyn riding off into the sunset, and she knew that legal marriage would give them the perfect opportunity to screw over the family financially. But instead of trusting those gut feelings, she tried to push them aside. After all, there was a reason Kody and Robyn seemed to intentionally shut out Christine and Janelle from the entire divorce and marriage process. Something smelled off from the start. They never mentioned Janelle's previous marriage on the show. It's funny, isn't it? This sub, plus a few streamers I follow, love bringing up Janelle's first marriage, but if you've watched the show, especially on repeat, good luck finding anything on that. So why's that? And why does Robyn's divorce get so much screen time while Janelle's is practically a footnote? I mean, if Kody's whole thing is that marrying a divorced woman was a huge deal, especially if her ex was the worst person ever, then why does Miri's brother get a pass? What makes Kody so chill with that divorce, but not Janelle's? Sorry if I'm missing some super obvious info from the book. I haven't gotten around to reading it yet. Here's the thing. Reality TV isn't about presenting the truth. It's more like the world's longest, most edited, most scripted soap opera. They only show us the parts that fit whatever drama they're trying to sell us, and surprise, it's not a documentary. That's why Janelle's marriage doesn't make the cut. Sure, it's been mentioned a few times, but here's why it doesn't dominate the plot. It happened forever ago, like decades ago. She was only married for about 6 months. They split amicably, and there's no big drama surrounding it. No kids, no crazy exes to make for good TV, just an easy, forgettable split. Compare that to Robyn's whole decade-long saga with her ex, and it makes sense why one gets more airtime than the other. So, any examples of kids who weren't exactly duped by Robyn? I'll never forget that moment in Vegas when the kids were all hesitant about signing the family mission statement. During the talking head session, one of them casually asks, "Did you really not want to sign it?" And Maddie just bursts out laughing, saying, "Nah, I just like pushing Robyn's buttons." I mean, honestly, chef's kiss. Maddie had her figured out. I love that. It was like she cracked the Robyn code. Now, if we take a brief moment to pretend, just pretend, that Robyn was totally genuine when she joined the family. Actually, who am I kidding? I can't waste energy on that. But seriously, the older boys were pretty spot on. They welcomed Davy, Robyn, for those who haven't kept up, into the fold, but they figured out pretty early that she wasn't exactly a team player. You could practically read their faces every time Robyn opened her mouth. Gabe? He probably held out the longest, thinking maybe things would change. But polygamy isn't exactly easy when your kids are getting an education, joining the military, and making decisions for themselves. I mean, how's that supposed to work when they're being exposed to a whole world outside the family bubble? The Brown kids grew up in Las Vegas, surrounded by a melting pot of ideas and cultures, so they weren't exactly lacking in perspective. Robyn, on the other hand, came from a tiny, tight-knit AUB community in Montana. She was soaked in the guilt, shame, and mind control that comes with that life. And you could see it. She was way too concerned that the kids weren't being raised AUB enough. She got real pushy, especially with that cringeworthy purity speech. She even tried to enforce the AUB dress code like it was some kind of mandatory uniform. Did the kids hate her? Nah, I don't think so. But they definitely didn't share her views. Robyn's whole attitude clashed with Kody's, who let the kids make their own choices. Kody, let's be real, wasn't really that invested in the religion. He just liked having a harem, and the AUB thing served his convenience. He's actually publicly said as much. He's not part of the AUB, and he's not advocating for polygamy. Meanwhile, Robyn, well, she's still completely immersed in it. Kody can't even afford to support 4 wives, and honestly, it's a little embarrassing. Now, I'm not saying that a man's wealth automatically grants him more wives, but if Kody can't financially support each one, then what's the draw? Let's be real, it's not his looks, and definitely not his personality. If he could provide each wife with a home and a comfortable life, maybe I could understand the whole polygamy thing a bit better. But over and over, we hear that the wives are paying for their own stuff. Mary bought her own B, and Janelle bought her own RV. Christine? She paid for her own things too. As the so-called leader of the household and head of the patriarchy, doesn't Kody feel at least a little embarrassed? One wife's living in a big house and another's in an RV. Does that not bother him? For someone who's so obsessed with his wives being obedient and traditional, it's a little pathetic that he doesn't follow the more traditional role of being the provider. Honestly, there's just no appeal there. I hate to admit it, but Kody was a charmer, a real charmer. The wives, especially Christine, were absolutely smitten with him. Christine even said, "When he looks at you with those eyes, you feel so loved," or something like that. Women want a soulmate, someone who makes them feel seen and special, and charmers know exactly how to give them that. They make you feel like the center of their universe, saying all the right things, like, "If I was your boyfriend, I'd never let you out of my sight." They make promises like, "I'll never get tired of looking into your beautiful eyes." And yes, I fell for it too. I married 2 guys who told me all that, and guess what? They told it to every woman they met. I was just the one who took the bait. I get the appeal of Kody from the early days. I can see why women raised in that community would think he was the prize. He was a good-looking young man from outside the community, and that part can't be ignored. In a place where family trees often look more like family bushes, a fresh face from the outside must have been a huge draw. Plus, coming from a slightly less conservative background probably made him seem more permissive and tolerant than the other men in their world. Can you imagine how irresistible he must have seemed to sheltered teenagers? Robyn casually mentioned her dad's job as a surveyor in Las Vegas, which got me thinking. Did Robyn plant the idea in Kody's head about fleeing to Las Vegas to dodge any potential charges for bigamy? After hearing a few YouTubers weigh in, I'm leaning toward yes, especially since it seems like the whole getting prosecuted for bigamy thing was just a wild fear they cooked up. And then, wouldn't you know it, they land in Las Vegas, of all places, where Robyn's dad just so happens to live and work as a surveyor. What a coincidence. I totally bought into this theory the second she mentioned it. If the excuse was they moved to Arizona for Dayton's college, then why not just move to Las Vegas, where Robyn's surviving parent conveniently lives? It's almost like they needed a quick escape from Utah and just decided on a random city. I mean, why not Wyoming, Idaho? But no, let's go to the neon-lit, gambling capital of the world. And then my brain exploded again when Robyn said her dad came up to Coyote Pass to survey the land. Was he the mastermind behind those oddly disproportionate parcel sizes that just so happened to benefit Kody and Robyn? I'm starting to think we're looking at some shady surveying here. Honestly, I'm just going to copy-paste this same rant from another thread because the mods deleted it, just when the conversation was getting good. I always wondered why they chose Las Vegas in the first place. Sure, it's not all glitzy casinos outside the Strip, but still, it just seemed random. This deeply religious, conservative family suddenly picks up and moves to Vegas. Why not a smaller town in Nevada, if they had to be in the state at all? They were small-town people, and now they're in the middle of a city that's a 24/7 party zone. It didn't add up. Also, why is Kody out there pretending to be a prospector? I've been trying to wrap my head around why he spent an entire episode surveying the land with a scope and gear to reevaluate the plots. Maybe I'm just a dummy, but did Kody really need to go out and physically remeasure the plots by hand with a spool of line, years after they already knew the size and layout? Couldn't they just redraw the lines on a map? It seemed like he was just out there for show. I thought it was weird then, but the more I think about it, the weirder it gets. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next video. Take care and much love to you all.